Hey, everybody. I'd like to provide a little look, kind of an overview for the new instructional student learning outcome assessment plan form that we'll all be moving to. Before I do, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Karen. Thanks for her help with this. And here we see the new form. And the first place to begin taking a look at this new form is not actually on the form itself, but on your syllabus. So this is our English 101 syllabus, and here's our learning outcomes, right? These are the learning outcomes that we all did through the effective teaching course. Remember that? Yeah. And so all of those learning outcomes there find their way into this first column on the far left. And you'll notice right here, this is A, critical thinking skills. Where did that come from? Why is that there? Because what do we see here? Right? Here we see, and these are going to be different depending upon each syllabus that you're working with. So all of these for English 101 are critical thinking skills. So that's why they're classified as A, and then it's listed out. And then here as well, we see some more information from the student learning outcomes, the owner, renter, as well as mastery. So those, of course, chances are will be different on yours, but that's where this information is coming from. It's coming from your course syllabus. That's why it's so important. This, again, from effective teaching class, why it's so important to have that syllabus, have everything buttoned up tight. So now let's jump back to, there we go, the form. So this is column 1. And let me scroll down so you can see that is under critical thinking skills, 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 3 student learning outcomes. And then you'll notice here we have the others, B, C, D, E, and F, right? But those were not on the course syllabus. So those rows are left blank. If you do have one under communicate effectively, then it would be here. If you're using teamwork skills, then it would be here. So that's the first thing that you need to do is go ahead and copy paste those student learning outcomes and put them under the proper, right, A, B, C, or D. So those are all there. Then, right, we just looked at the owner renter. That's going to go here under the second column, assessment methods, measures, and then the performance target benchmark. That could be like introductory, established, or mastery. You want to think about those as terms as letter grades, C, B, and A, right? Introductory would be a C, 75, established B, 85, mastery 90 or above. So what's next? So here we have how we're going to measure that, right? So for this one, this is the portfolio, the e-portfolio, right? Who, what, and when. Those are the questions that should be answered here. Then this is the target, right? So this is the means of measure, the means of assessment. And this is what we're projecting out. So with this one, it's mastery. So that'd be A level. 90% of students will demonstrate with 90%, right? So both of those have to be mastery level. And then you'll notice here that this language, knowledge of individual collaborative writing through creation of portfolio, what do we see that? That comes from over here from our learning outcome. So everything is being connected. Then moving across. So here's the data. Again, this is just an example. So 100%, wow, we did it. Everybody scored 90% or better. Then to the far right, this last column, really important. The use of results. Okay, want to plainly state, yep, the outcome was met. Now what are we going to do? Well, if we want to keep using this for assessment, right, we can't keep it where it is. We have to up our ante. So you'll see that we've gone from 90 to 95. And that was on that first student learning outcome. Now, let's take a look at the next one. So this next one deals with writing papers. And out of all those different papers that we cover in English 101, we're just using one. So again, everything copy pasted from the syllabus. This is who, what, and when. So all students will complete an explanatory essay, which is due in the 5th week of a 15-week semester. And again, we're mastery, right? So 90-90, okay? And then so out of all these different ones here, we're just working with the explanatory. And then also put in here the evaluation instrument. How is that going to be evaluated? Okay, now before, with this example, we had 100%. Oh no, only 50% scored 90 or above. So obviously what? The outcome was not met. So now this next part here is critical. This is what's called closing the loop. In other words, once we know we're not successful, what do we have to do? Well, we've got to go through all of those papers and as well have to go through all of the rubrics, right? So I have to go through all of the rubrics for those essays. That was the wrong rubric, excuse me. There we go. It's the right one. So I have to go through all of the rubrics, taking a look at the standards, and have to figure out what went wrong. And just say for this example that we noticed a whole bunch of flagging here for, and this row here deals with being, with you're a clean writer or an average writer or a troublesome writer with grammar and mechanics. So we noticed that a whole bunch of papers were flagged for grammatical and mechanical errors with writing. So we say, okay, now we're on the trail for the solution. So then we look further and then we see that there's a way too many papers are flagged for comma splices. And now we can say, well, wow, I think we're onto something here. So then what do we say? The analysis showed common errors with the comma splice, a major error in college writing. So now what are we going to do about this? We can't just walk away and go, I don't know comma splices. We have to do something. So then a review unit covering the comma splice will be developed and added to all D2L shells effective next semester. And this column here again is the most important. This is what we call closing the loop. Without this one, right? In other words, we found something wrong. What are we going to do about it? If we don't do this, then there's no point in doing anything else. Okay, so for the next one, this deals with research, MLA and APA documentation. How are we doing that? With the causal analysis essay, which uses APA documentation. So again, what do we have here? 90% proficiency. And since this is dealing with documentation, we cannot go by the overall grade of the paper because the overall grade of the paper is not just about documentation. So we're going to have to take a look at here just the references page and in-text citations, the documentation inside the body of the paper. And what did we find out? That, oh dear, we didn't make it again. 75% scored 90% or higher. So what do we have to do again? We have to go back to the standards, the rubric. And the row that we have to look at here would be this row. So we would have to go through and see where, right, take a look at all the different students. Where are the most sections highlighted? And it might be here, right, which would be the unsuccessful, right, the D side. And we get into this peach color. You don't want to get into this salmon color. You don't like salmon, right? So we're seeing that we're having lots of problems with the reference pages and in-text documentation. So since we know that, what are we going to do? Well, we went in there and we started to look at the papers. We saw, oh, wow, they're confused between MLA and APA, right, which happens. So now, what are we going to do? Well, the same thing before. Just since we found this out, we're going to have to come up with something to do to make things better. Constant improvement process, CIP. We got to close that loop. So we come up with a review unit. We develop it, focusing not on APA documentation, but the differences between APA and MLA. Why do we do that? Well, because when we went through and we did our analysis, they were confused between MLA and APA. So we're going to come up with that, design that, and we're going to add it to our D2L shells next semester. So that way we would go in and we would close the loop. So again, the first place to begin is not necessarily on this form, but you want to take a look at all your different syllabi, right? As many syllabi you have. Then what's it going to be? A, B, C, D, so forth. Owner, renter, introductory, establish, mastery, and begin to transfer that, all of that information from your syllabus onto the assessment plan form. And then you have to go through and you have to start digging and do your data analysis and then come up with the most important part, the use of results. Now that we know this, what are we going to do to improve the process? CIP, constant improvement process. We got to close the loop. So again, my thanks for Karen with her help on this. And if you have any questions or problems, remember you have your deans to go to sit down and talk about this, your colleagues, those are important too. And if Karen or I could be of any help, any assistance, just let us know. So again, I'm glad we have this time together to take a look at this new process for reporting our learning outcomes and our assessments. So thanks, y'all.